Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another MAMJ Let's Play. Today I'm playing a game called The Strange Case of Sophia's Daughter, and I don't know anything about it. It looks adorable. I think there was something about curses, so I don't know how horror focused this game is going to be, but let's find out. Why not? Start. Yes. Oh god. When I was little, Mabel Callahan told me that she would either live to be 100 or die before 20. What? Her mother, who had just walked in the room, asked what compelled her to say such things. Mabel just shrugged, but I knew she was simply telling the truth and nothing more. You were aware of that? Hold up, what? That conversation, like many others we had, lay dormant in my mind until years later when I was forced to recognize its relevance. I was admiring the progress of the school's new gym building from the comfort of my desk when the counselor, bless his heart, took me out of math class and led me to his office. Okay. Behind his desk were crayon drawings of happy families, accompanied by a little note, usually something to the effect of, "Thank you, Mr. G." Okay, we all called him Mr. G because his real name was unnecessarily long and difficult to pronounce. He had tufts of gray hair around his ears and noticeable eye bags from when he was from what was likely decades of working with mentally troubled and hormone-fueled teenagers. Fair enough. I can't blame him for that. I always wondered about Mr. G's personal life since he didn't seem to have a wife or any kids, but he was known to occasionally flirt with the new English teachers down the hall. Just plural? Like that was your only requirement, was that they taught English? Now I'm sure you're wondering why I called you in here. I didn't say anything. I've been told that you and Mabel were particularly close. Is this true? Not really. I haven't spoken to her since 7th grade. Well, maybe a couple of times, but not often. I don't know if you've noticed, but Mabel has not been coming to school lately. Is that so? My legs started twitching. I wish he would just get to the point and let me go back to staring at construction sites. The counselor took in a deep breath. We've received word from Mabel's family that she passed away. We wanted to let you know because Mabel said you and her were good friends. We're girlfriends. We were girlfriends. I know this must be a shock for you. I'm terribly sorry for your loss. Young death is a tragic, tragic thing. He kept talking, but I stopped listening. Mabel had not crossed my mind for weeks. I tried not to conjure her face, yet couldn't remember any particular features. I tried to conjure her face. Not her nose, nor her dress, nor her smile. It was as if I only knew the concept of a person called Mabel, and no longer the girl herself. I was a bit surprised to learn that Mabel still considered us good friends. It was true. We were best friends in elementary and middle school because we lived in the same apartment. Then I moved and switched middle schools. We met again once we were both funneled into a giant high school complex, but by that time, I had other friends and I thought she did too. Do you know how she died? I asked. I scratched my nose and noticed that my fingers were frigid. Mr. G's face froze in the middle of a sentence. He lowered his eyes. We're not quite sure. The police are still investigating. What is this music that's happening right now? Is this really appropriate, Mr. G? You need to turn that off, seriously. The police are still investigating, but rest assured it was a peaceful death, and there is no danger to you. He smiled as if those empty words had fooled me. He probably expected me to burst into tears at any moment, but my brain wasn't working. I no longer felt the harsh metal seat, nor the weight of my limbs. I could tell Mr. G directed a lot of words towards me, but I understood nothing. If you need anything, please reach out to myself or any of the faculty. We are here to support you 100%. I've notified your teachers so that you can be excused during your grieving period. In the meantime, I can recommend some therapists who can help you recover and process the trauma. It's fine, I'll be okay. Can I go now? My lips finally moved. Mr. G's eyes widened. Are you sure? I'm fine. You're free to leave, but please come talk to me if you need anything at all. I got out of my chair and let the door gently swing shut behind me. The school was ablaze with rumors the very next day. Despite the administration's best efforts, It seemed that the life and death of Mabel had spread to every corner of every classroom. Well, it was probably on the news, right? Like, it wasn't just school rumors. Ironically, she was more popular in death than in life. Students excitedly speculated on the cause of her demise in hushed tones. I discovered Mabel's earthly reputation inside empty classrooms and in long lunch lines. She was an apparition. She rarely socialized unless directly approached and regularly skipped classes. Her appearance was unremarkable in every manner. People would often have a private conversation within earshot as if she wasn't even there. Most notably, there was the obsession. Mabel was obsessed with creating purple bracelets. Day after day, she turned out mountains of bracelets on her desk. A slight breeze would cause massive clumps to slosh off and scatter onto the floor. No one knew where she had acquired a seemingly endless supply of purple construction paper, but the Amazon rainforest probably wasn't very happy. In the face of such insanity came mystery, and in the face of mystery came fear. One thing was clear: Mabel was not a happy soul. The few people who spoke to her said they sensed a terror in her eyes. I was confused. The Mabel of my childhood had been a bright and pleasant girl. She constantly begged me to play with her, and would spend hours in our imaginary world, laughing at our own foolishness. When I first announced my departure, Mabel and I swore to visit each other every day, and we did, for the first couple of days. Slowly, I let the periods between my journeys drift longer and longer while refocusing on my own life. Other people started filling the once Mabel-occupied spaces in my brain until I stopped longing for her completely. At last, someone decided that they had solved the mystery. Mabel committed suicide, they declared. It was frighteningly obvious, was it not? She lived in a hell of her own creation and finally decided to end it. But wait, others interjected. Surely the purple bracelets meant something. Could Mabel be planning something more insidious? Her social isolation was not self-imposed. Didn't Jones say she was bullied in Miss Gershaw's class? Didn't someone once ask her out as a joke in front of the entire school? Oh, where the music changed. Okay. It's a curse, I tell you. She's died to curse us. I don't know where this voice came from. Oh, it's actually nasally. Okay, let's go with it. I heard a nasally but confident voice and turned around. Hey man, that's not cool. Look, I know I haven't been close with her for a while, but that doesn't mean you can make up these crazy theories about her. The girl beside him flapped her hands. She was crazy. Once I ran into her in the bathroom and I swear she growled at me, chomped her teeth and everything. Who is this? I want to think. We're gonna go nasally. I know it's really sad that she's not with us anymore, but she always did give me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, I feel a little bad. I'm just gonna give everybody's getting a nasally voice. I don't even care anymore. I don't want to be cursed. Just made it on varsity soccer. Hey, didn't Sarah say she dressed up as a witch for Halloween a couple of years ago? And she was always muttering something under her breath, especially when the teacher was talking. Maybe... I can't go any higher. Maybe she's the reason the fire alarm went off during the geography quiz. I tried to drown out the conversation. I bet it would be so high-pitched and annoying at that point. Was Mabel depressed? Did she actually hate all of us, including me? The Mabel I knew wouldn't do that, but I do remember those mood swings that happen every once in a blue moon. She would be laughing, then suddenly burst into tears. A deluge of memories burst into my head. Guilt flooded my body and I had the urge to vomit. I heard a third voice cut past the ravel. Guys, stop. Can't you see how uncomfortable you're making him? From the corner of my eyes, I did see her gesturing towards me. You're being super rude to Mabel and Tony. Don't you know they were friends? Tony, are you alright? Sorry, Tony, we were just kidding, but got a little carried away. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about Mabel, the boy said. Yeah. God, my neighbors are gonna hate me. You're welcome to talk to us anytime, okay? The girl added. The gossiping pair hurried away. Thank God. At that moment, I raised my head to see a clear emerald eyes peering at my face. It was Shannon. She was one of the best friends I made after the move. She often was mocked by the other kids for breathing through her mouth because of a perpetual cold, so we quickly bonded over our shared social awkwardness. Apparently I can be part of this crew too, because man, things are awkward. Her slightly wet nose, warm breath, and mussy hair were more reminiscent of a curious puppy than a concerned citizen. Thanks, I owe you one, I smiled. No problem. The nerve of everyone, jeez. How can they talk about someone who just killed themselves like that? That's not, we don't, but we don't know whether she killed herself or not. Shannon was silent. Then she spoke. You're right. Looks like I'm susceptible to dumb rumors too. Anyways, let's work on our science fair project. The deadline's coming up. Maybe it'll get your mind off of her. Plus, you put in too much work just to watch me mope around anyways. I followed her into the lab, trying to forget my precious friend once again. After dinner, I washed the dishes as slowly as possible while waiting for Dad to retire to the living room. My mom sat at the dinner table, watching the steam rise from her jasmine tea. She took a sip. Mom, do you keep up with Mabel's mom? I punctured the bubble of silence. Not particularly, no. I think the last time we talked was last Thanksgiving. I sent her a casserole recipe. She took another sip. I heard Mabel died. Mom choked on the tea. I didn't know that. I just found out. This is... She paused. Difficult. I'll call Sophia. I'm so sorry about this, honey. Mom, do you think it's my fault? That she died? Of course not. How did you get that ridiculous notion? I don't know. We should have kept talking. Friends lose contact all the time. I barely talk to anyone except your father nowadays. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe. Oh, snap! What if Sophia and Mabel really needed you? I haven't really talked to her in years, but if she were to reach out, I would gladly answer. But why didn't you try first? Life gets busy, alright? You'll understand when you're older. Hey, how about we get some ice cream tomorrow? At Kevin's. Double fudge turtle sundae. I know you can't resist. I'm not a child. I turn 18 next month. So no ice cream? I smiled. Fine, let's go. But I don't want Dad to come. She sighed and put up her hands. Oh, all right. It'll just be the two of us, like the good old days. Okay, everyone, come up and grab your graded exams. Oh, that's a Mrs. Well, maybe she, she smoked a lot. Miss Hovey, the chemistry teacher, announced. I lined up behind a pack of students, not particularly concerned about my grade. I've been doing well in school, especially in science, ever since Dad encouraged me to start studying more. He wasn't able to receive a proper education of his own, so he wanted me to excel in his place. In contrast, the murmur of the crowd was anything but on the subject of the test. No, they were still obsessed with Mabel and had come up with even crazier theories regarding her supernatural powers in the span of a day. Mrs. Hovey handed me my test with an air of disappointment. I looked at the sheet. Almost 20 points lower than I usually scored. I felt a heavy stone in my stomach, but quickly ran the grade calculations in my head. If I had scored slightly better on the other tests, my overall mark would be fine. Yeah, see, the thing is, you don't think you're affected by this person's death, but you definitely are. Like, you just don't realize it yet. You're like, I'm fine, it's okay. And you're not. And that's what's going on right now. What'd you get, Tony? Perfect score, probably. My friend asked while I sat down. Not this time, I muttered, stuffing the test in my desk. Maybe it's the curse, the same girl from yesterday said. I wish she would stop talking about such subjects. My friend's eyes widened at the realization that dawned on him. Well, Tony was the only friend Mabel ever had. Do you think she's mad at you? When's the last time you guys talked? Did you do anything really mean to her? I don't remember, I answered honestly. Look, man, I'm not normally one to be all superstitious, but maybe you should do a little prayer tonight, just in case. His voice trailed off at the end. When was the last time I approached her? I honestly couldn't remember the circumstance or the conversation topic. I fumbled with the crumpled test. Maybe I did deserve such a score. Even if it were not Mabel's curse, surely karma would strike me for being such a bad friend. As I pushed the paperwork around inside the desk, I noticed another object. I pulled it out. It was a purple bracelet. Oh! Oh no! The girls screamed. It's a sign! You're definitely cursed! Hexed! No way around it! You gotta see an exorcist now! Why would I watch that movie now? Oh, shh! My friend stopped to compose himself. This is more real than I expected. 2 prayers for you, at the very least. I stared at the bracelet. My head was numb, and I couldn't think of anything other than Mabel, Mabel, Mabel. Was this a sign? Did I truly commit such great evil? Was I really the only friend she ever had, or was I being irrational? Should I let myself be consumed by the death of a girl who, a month ago, was almost a complete stranger to me? More bad news awaited me at home. My dad was sitting at the dinner table with a thin envelope in his hand from the local private college, furiously drumming his fingers. He rose at once when he saw me. Son, it's here. Call your mother too. This was the first college I applied to, and the one that my father so desperately wanted to attend when he was a student, but his family didn't have enough money. He always bragged about how he had more than enough saved up for my college education. I took the letter from his hands and felt only a single folded paper inside. My parents both stared as I opened the envelope and read it. It's a rejection, I said. My dad sat down and let out a small, "Oh." After a long pause, he said, "Well, it's okay. You applied to a lot more schools. Besides, this one's super expensive. You'd probably get a scholarship from the state college." He sounded like he was trying to convince himself more than me. "That's right. We're supporting you all the way, Tony. Let's go to Kevin's to cheer you up," my mom said. If nothing else, I didn't have to stay in this crummy town for another 4 years, and I could forget all about Mabel, but I didn't say that part out loud. I found myself at Kevin's with my mother at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I kept thinking of my friend, trying to recall our precious memories together, trying to find every instance where I had wronged her. "How is it? Just like you remember?" my mom said with worry in her voice. I realized that I had barely eaten any of my ice cream. I quickly shoved a few spoonfuls into my mouth. "Delicious." "Is something the matter, honey?" "What do you think, Mom?" She saw through my facade. "It's about Mabel. I can't help but think I could have helped her if only we didn't move. This new neighborhood is much nicer, and you have lots of new friends. The move was good for us, I promise. Now that old apartment, what an awful place, swarming with cockroaches and centipedes. You know how much I hate those things, and so small too. When we went over to Sophia's place, the 4 of us would barely fit. She had so much furniture, that silly lady. Couldn't bear to throw anything away for some reason. My mom was lost in her memories. You and Mabel were the most adorable pair, I swear. I had to pry you away from her when it was time to leave. I remember all those arts and craft projects you two used to do, especially those bracelets." Oh, right. Wasn't it I who introduced Mabel to the art of creating bracelets? Wasn't it I who taught her how to carefully bend the thin strip of paper over itself to create a thicker strand? "Would you like to go to Wood Creek Park? I used to take you there all the time. You were such a feisty little kid back then. Honestly, what happened?" my mother sighed. Wood Creek Park was right across the street from Kevin's, and also where I met Mabel for the first time. I found her crying over her lost bracelet. Oh. We searched the park until the sun went down, but weren't successful. To my pleasant surprise, I discovered we lived in the same red brick apartment complex, so the next day I marched up to her room with a paper bracelet in my hands. It was purple because I had exhausted all the other colored construction paper except purple, which was my least favorite color. She claimed it wasn't good for her, as good as her lost one, but ever since that day, I never saw her without a purple bracelet. While my mom plopped down on the nearest bench and began reading a book, I wandered over to the edge of the park and observed the great big pond. I saw a happy family of ducks glide over the murky brown surface, and a small frog leap into the water with an exquisite splash. I don't know how long I stood like this, but when I came to my senses, I looked up to see a man standing beside me. He had wavy hair with a touch of messiness, piercing blue eyes, and full, happy lips. Happy lips? Okay. His shirt was thin enough to hint at his powerful muscles. This was exactly the type of person I would fear if I had a girlfriend. "Visit the park often?" he asked. "No, I used to, but not anymore." "Ah, that makes sense. Despite its small size, this pond is quite beautiful. Look how it buzzes with such life. See all the bugs, the fish, the snakes. Most people don't realize it exists because it's fairly secluded, but that just makes me love it all the more. I take walks here all the time. I love it too, I said. I used to catch those little mosquito fish and take them home with me, but they always died. The conversation stopped and we stood in silence. I listened to the hum of the insects and wondered if someone with perfect pitch could tell me what note it was. I started coming here after I lost my wife and daughter, he said. Sensing my shock, the man continued. Don't worry, this isn't something I normally tell people from the get-go, but you seem like a reliable young man, and I can tell that there's something on your mind, so I figured I'd break the ice a little. For some reason, I felt this man was trustworthy. I took a deep breath. There's this girl at my school. We used to be friends, or we still are maybe. She died recently, and I think it's my fault. I think she killed herself because I stopped talking to her, and now she's put a curse on me or something. I couldn't believe I was spilling everything to a complete stranger. A curse? Are you sure you're not just imagining it? The man seemed startled. I guess I could be, but all the signs are pointing to it being real. There's the bracelet and the test and all the rumors. My breathing became more and more ragged. Calm down, kid. It's obvious you're in a great deal of stress, so why don't we just start with baby steps? Did you put a bullet in her yourself? If not, how could you have killed her? She was lonely and didn't have any friends. I could have kept talking to her and convinced her not to kill herself. Instead, I abandoned her in that awful apartment complex and ran off with my new dad. The man raised his eyebrows at the mention of the apartment complex, but did not say anything about it. It sounds to me like none of the situation is your fault. Isn't it normal to make new friends when you move? But we were such good friends. At the time, she was everything to me. I can't believe I forgot her just like that. How horrible of a person am I? Tears welled up in my eyes. The man scratched his chin. How about you just give in to her demands? Huh? This is the very last response I expected from an adult, but she's dead. I can't do anything now. Weren't you going on about how she cursed you? You've seen horror movies, right? Once you fix that thing the ghost is angry about, everything goes back to normal. Well, maybe a character or two dies, but hopefully that doesn't happen here. I stared at him like he had just suggested I lop off my own head. I still think this whole curse business is nonsense, he quickly added, but you seem in sufficient panic that you may as well try it. Kids sometimes just have to get it out of their systems. I thought about it some more and concluded that his idea was actually quite logical. I guess Mabel was pretty in tune with her spiritual side. She even had a Ouija board once. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I just need to make up with her from the great beyond. I vigorously shook his hand. Thank you, sir. I think I know what I need to do now. With a spring in my step, I returned to my mother. Mom, we need a Ouija board! Mabel is most commonly spotted at the furthest bookshelf in the library, the empty classroom on the second floor, and the broken desk outside the study hall. Suddenly, everyone recalled seeing Mabel hunched over a small table, furiously scribbling in a tattered burgundy notebook, despite not even knowing of her existence a week prior. While I often spent sunless afternoons reading horror novels on the giant plush chair, I didn't love the library like Mabel did. Last time I ran into her here, she was able to pinpoint exactly where I could find the books I needed. When questioned about her ability to recall Dewey Decimal locations, she simply shrugged and said it came with practice. Our library was pretty old and due for a remodel, so the bright fluorescent light bulbs barely reached the shelves at the very back of the room, where countless unread books covered in a thick layer of dust lay. I ripped the books off, opened them and turned them upside down, and shook them. In mere minutes, the entire floor was covered with histories of the British Empire circa 1870 to 1920. No luck. No note or any sign of Mabel. I haphazardly stuffed the mishandled textbooks back in place. I probably caused a lot of hassle for the librarians, but the only thing on my mind at that point was getting to my next destination. No one knew why classroom 229A was unused. Administration constantly complained about the lack of funding for learning real estate, yet chose to put more students in the overcrowded rooms next to it. Perhaps the school staff was just privy to rumors as a student body, for 229A was rumored to be haunted. According to James in math class, A girl had an asthma attack in there and died. Unfortunately, this incident apparently occurred 50 years ago, so all the old employees had retired and were unable or perhaps unwilling to confirm or deny the existence of such an event. Nevertheless, the vast majority of people like to pretend the room didn't exist during the day. After school, however, was a different story. Students like to wait until sunset, turn the lights off, and go ghost hunting. And if they were especially astute, they might have been scared by Mabel sitting in the corner, waiting for her mom to pick her up. This activity was so popular that it was commonly seen as a rite of passage for freshmen desperate to rise in the social hierarchy. As with the library, I did not find any vestiges of Mabel's essence in the classroom. A message, a note, a single letter, anything. Surely she would leave me, her best friend in the whole world, something of our friendship before passing on to the past life. Or the afterlife? She must have wanted me to fix our disastrous relationship, even after death. Why do you curse me, Mabel? You don't even know if she actually committed suicide. Like, you are not even jumping to conclusions. You're just like leaping over the chasm of logic. Was it pure hatred? Am I unable to repent for my crimes? Again, there was nothing in the little desk with the missing leg. I would often catch Mabel sleeping there, her back gently rising and falling as I cycled in and out of study hall. I rummaged through the desk's cubby and pulled out generations of teacher name-calling, adolescent love confessions, and broken pencils until the desk was completely empty. I laid my head on the table. What I had missed? Where did I forget to look? Perhaps I missed the old apartment complex. I suddenly realized how little I knew about Mabel's past life in the 7th grade. I stared at the paper purple bracelet that I had started wearing yesterday and noticed that it had a tear in it. It was going to fall apart soon, so I tried to tie the wispy strands back together. There was writing on the inside of the bracelet. Of course, I shouted. Several students looked at me alarmed. I'm such an idiot, I muttered to myself. Of course the message would be on the bracelet itself. Why was that not the first place I looked? Holding the purple construction paper up to the light, I read, Wood Creek Park, Swings, Thursday at midnight. Thursday? That was today, wasn't it? I knew exactly what she was talking about. That playground we love so much. I visited it periodically, but never for very long. After I discovered Mabel's message, I ignored my obligations for the rest of the day, much to Shannon's chagrin. She ran up to me as I was leaving the building. Tony, where were you? I had to do the experiment entirely by myself. Do you know how annoying PCR is? I'm so sorry. It totally slipped my mind. Something urgent came up, I said. Shannon grunted a little, then sighed, clutching her folders tighter to her chest. I see. You should let me know the next time so we can reschedule. She paused. I get worried, you know. She looked down. If you need help for whatever reason, please call me. You have my number, right? Yep. Thanks, Shannon. I waved at her while running out the door. Okay. 11:45 p.m., I quietly slipped out of the house, making sure to disable the alarm system. Large empty shadows cluttered my path like the machinations of a deranged child's mind. I tripped over cracked sidewalks and tiptoed past darkened houses. At last, I saw the Wood Creek Park playground with its rusty jungle gym and half-empty sandbox. The playground was honestly too small to support its vast daily users, but the city never bothered to raise enough money to expand it. As a result, many of the equipment were safety hazards, and splinters were a common occurrence after a trip to the park. At midnight exactly, I checked my watch, I saw a small shadow appear on the swings. She looked so small and delicate that I was sure a gentle breeze would knock her over. She was swaying back and forth on the swing like a lost paper fluttering in the wind, her wild hair trailing behind her. I almost forgot to breathe. For a split second, I was disgusted with myself. What was I doing here? Mabel wasn't real, and I was a fool. I should be home working on that science fair project. Those thoughts quickly fell away when the girl spoke. Do you know what the easiest emotion to feel is? Mabel dug her heels into the prickly wooden chips as she came down from an arc. I thought for a moment. I don't know, boredom? Mabel smiled. No, it's hate. Do you hate me? No. Quite the opposite, in fact. But I hate what you've done. Mabel suddenly rose from her seat and wrapped her porcelain arms around me. She leaned in and touched her hot lips to my ear. Traitor. I didn't abandon you, I swear. I told my mom I wanted to live in the same apartment, but my dad... Your stepdad. My stepdad wanted us to have a better life, you know? Get away from the crummy neighborhood. Get away from me. Nothing against you. What about our promise to get married? I laughed. I thought that was only if either of us could get anything by 30, or if neither of us could get anything by 30, not 12. Well, I wasn't planning on trying very hard. Shame on you, I said. You've been trying too hard, Mabel said. I couldn't help but burst into laughter once again. I miss this. I forgot how much fun you were to talk to. Were, huh? Mabel drew away. Are you fun to talk to? No, I think were is more appropriate. I'll never forget you, Mabel. I know I messed up in the past, but I'm different now. What a cheesy line. That's another thing I've always hated about you. Mabel smiled under her mask of disdain. Fine, look at this bracelet. I just remembered how much it meant to you, how much you loved making them with me. I'll make one every day for you. Pinky promise? Mabel said, lifting her hand up. I mirrored her actions. Now, cross your heart and hope to die, Mabel continued with a smirk. Whoa. Are you putting another curse on me? Yes. No, go do it. I obliged. There. You believe me now, don't you? I want to, Tony. I've always wanted to believe in you, but you've always made it so difficult. Is there any way to make it up to you? I'm an awful man, I know that. My soul's probably all black and crusty and gross and not fit for someone like you, and I regret so much. Tears streamed down my face. Do you know how betrayed I felt? I tried talking to you, but you were so busy with your new, more popular friends. She spat out those last words. I know, I said. I suppose I'm a little bit upset with you, so I put a curse on you. A toy curse, if you will. Things won't always go your way, but it'll be nothing worse than some bad karma, Mabel chuckled. You're free to ignore me, really. You can just forget me, again. No, you're not getting away this time. I held her hands tightly. What a shocking development. Unfortunately, my time is up for today, Mabel said. I have to go, but tomorrow, same place, same time, we'll talk. I watched Mabel's back shrink as she descended further and further into the darkness. Her tattered red dress swayed under the flickering street lamps, and she barely made any noise as she glided over the crunchy playground chips. I looked down at the purple bracelet in my hands and squeezed it. Is she really dead? Like, what if she just moved schools? I know the counselor was like, she died, but is she really dead? What's happening? What am I doing? Oh, okay. The moonlit tryst continued for several nights. Day after day, I would sneak out and meet the ghostly Mabel in the rundown park and talk about everything from my childhood to my mother's caffeine addiction to favorite beat poets. We talked so freely that I felt like I was 11 years old again, pretending to be Robin Hood. Mabel was Little John, in the vast forests of Wood Creek Park. To be honest, I'm actually not sure why I'm still here, she said. I said I put a curse on you, but that was a lie. I think there's something tying me to this world. Regrets. Okay, so she is actually dead. That's so cliche, I said. Are we literally in a horror movie? Shut up. Mabel punched my arm. Regrets, huh? We all have those, don't we? I already told you mine. I thought about it a lot, and I think it has to do with my mom. She's the only one in the entire world who's never abandoned me, and I left her. Now she has no one. I'll look after Sophia, I said. I want to make sure she's all right. Can you do that, Tony? Can you care for her in my place? You got it, I grinned. I decided to pay a visit to Sophia the very next day. What is this music? I'm gonna save? Because I haven't saved yet, right? And also, I think there's multiple endings. So since we haven't saved yet, we'll go ahead and do it here. Good. Because something's about to happen. Mabel's mom lived in exactly the same putrid conditions that I remembered. The kitchen sink was full of moldy dishes. There were years of ignored magazines on the ground, and any interior designer would be offended by the furniture placement. The Sophia of my memories was a wistful woman who was a bit plain, but who mostly kept herself together. She was quiet, demure, and a bit airheaded. I often had to repeat things to her multiple times. However, she was always attentive in manners that related to her daughter. "Well, I'll be. It's little Tony back for a visit." The lady who opened the door had thick round glasses on and half-done hair bun with strands spilling out all over her face. I was shocked by this change. If anything, Sophia looked like the real witch, not Mabel. She was younger than my mom, yet she looked at least 10 years older. Sophia led me inside and started boiling water on her greasy stovetop. "You've probably heard about my poor Mabel. She's no longer with us anymore. I just don't know what to do with myself nowadays. I have no one to wait for after school. Your mother is so lucky. She has 2 lovely boys, but my family has all left me. I'm sorry. I can visit you after school from now on." "There's no need." She suddenly flailed her arms. "Why didn't you see us sooner? Why wait until after Mabel's death? You knew how much she was suffering, didn't you? Didn't you?" Sophia glared at me. "You're just like her father." Mabel only spoke about her father in whispers. Apparently he left immediately after her birth, and Sophia was too young and dumb to force him to pay child support. "Handsome boy, but what a monster," Sophia said. "I thought you and Mabel would get married. Good thing that didn't happen because you would have abandoned her just like her father. Your mother saw a better opportunity in a man, and that's all it took. Mabel was so pretty. The other boys just didn't understand." She began talking to herself. "Is there anything I can do to help?" I said. "Anything at all?" "Can you raise people from the dead?" "Unfortunately not," I said. "Then leave." The water started boiling. She made some oolong tea, my mother's favorite. "Your daughter asked me to help you." "How could she? Every day she complained about how you ignore her." "She's here, I promise you. She's here and she wants you to live." Mabel was gone the moment I scattered her ashes. "You know nothing, child." I left feeling quite dejected. How was I to fulfill Mabel's wish? I needed to ask someone for advice. Yeah, man at the pond. Man at the pond for sure. The man at the pond said I should appease Mabel. Obviously, I should ask him for more help. I ran to Wood Creek Park, leapt past the trail, and dove into the small clearing that housed the dirty pond. I saw a tall silhouette on the edge. "Mister!" He turned his head. "Hello again. You seem in a hurry. Everything all right now?" I talked to her. I talked to the girl. She told me how to break the curse. Well, it's not really a curse, but it might as well be. She needs help moving on, so I need to fix up her mom. Her mom, you see, she's gone crazy. Totally wacko. I can't get through to her. She's mad at me for not marrying her daughter. Isn't that wild? It's true, it's my fault, but she won't even let me make it up to her. How is Mabel supposed to pass on if her mom's suffering like that? I panted. I barely caught a word you're saying, kid. Can you try again from the beginning? Slowly? I thought for a bit. Sorry, let me rephrase. You mentioned you lost your wife and daughter before. How did you deal with that? Someone I know is going through something similar and I want to help her. Ah, the man kicked the grass. That's difficult. Some days you're not going to be okay. Other days might be better, but you'll still suffer and cry and would do anything to get them back. As for me, I take a lot of walks, like I said before. Helps slow my mind down. Lets me think. What do you think about? Oh, you know, life, death, everything in between. I tried dating a bit after, but it just doesn't feel right. I got a dog, and that helped me for a bit. You know, son, I think it's time that ultimately heals you. The gentle, yet cursed embrace of the ticking clock. So, Mabel's mom just needs time? I think so. Maybe she has too much time. What can you do just by yourself? He threw a rock. It bounced a couple of times and then sunk into the water. There are too many hours in a day. Really? I think 24 hours isn't enough. I can barely have time to get my homework done as is. Fortunately for me, I don't have homework. Don't you have a job or something? Jobs are supposed to be boring. Besides, what about the rest of the 16 hours? Well, the 8 you spend sleeping and the other 8 you can do chores and cook. Isn't that awful? The man grunted. What kind of kid are you anyways? Doesn't everyone your age just want to play video games all day? Well, I do, but I have obligations like studying and science fair projects, I said. My mom says I have a good sense of responsibility. What? Why'd you break it like that? Honestly, you sound more mature than me. You sure I should be giving you advice? The last thing you told me was a good idea, and besides, you have more life experience. That counts for something. Say, your friend's name was Mabel, right? What was her mother's name? Sophia? Yeah, how did you know? I took a step back. And they lived in an ugly red apartment with broken windows on the 3rd floor. Did you know them previously? Were you friends with Sophia? Sophia was my lover. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. What? My lover? The man laughed. Okay. It was a thin, hoarse laugh lined with phlegm. He laughed so long that he started choking. What a fool she was. His eyes completely changed. No longer did they radiate warmth. Instead, they were malicious and sharp like a snake's. So that's what happened to my daughter. I let out a shout. You're Mabel's dad? Where were you? Sophia really was a pretty little thing working in that dumpy grocery store. I married her off to the good life, okay? For a solid couple of months anyways, but it was just a bit of fun. Pass the time, you know. There are too many hours in a day, so I get bored. I didn't want to deal with the kid, though. It was too much of a hassle, so I just left, he shrugged. I can't believe she didn't even come after me in the courts. I was fully willing to pay. It's not like I'm low on cash anyways. Mabel offed herself? At least that's a pretty interesting. Maybe I ought to pay a visit to Sophia. See how insane she is now. Red spots filled my vision. My head went numb. I screamed at him. What the hell's wrong with you? I wish I knew, he sighed again. You should probably give up on Sophia. Her mind's long gone. Leave some fun for me. I walked to the nearest tree trunk and left a deep red splatter with my knuckles. Suddenly, Mabel appeared. She swiftly moved towards me and held her hands to my ears. This is your moment, Tony. Avenge my mother and me. If you kill him, all your sins will be erased. What? I broke off a tree branch and weighed it in my hands. It was rough and hefty and felt like a baseball bat with spikes all over it. Before the man could ask me what I was doing, I slammed the wooden rod into his face. What? Splotches of blood hit the ground along with a couple of teeth. He smiled. You got some fight. The man proceeded to sink his fist into my stomach, and I crashed on the gravel road, unable to breathe. While I lay there, he stomped on my head like he had seen an ugly cockroach. My skin ripped off from the friction. I gathered the remnants of my strength, pushed him off, and aimed the thick branch at his head. I missed slightly and hit his neck, but it was enough to knock him off his feet. I jumped on his stomach and repeatedly bashed his skull with my weapon until he stopped moving. I wiped the sweat and blood from my brow. This isn't happy. We just killed a person. Bravo, Tony. You did it. Thank you, Mabel. That horrible person's gone. Now I can tell Sophia she's saved. I just killed her former lover. There's no need. Mabel gave a happy twirl. She already knows. How? She's in the next world with me, silly. You can't see her, but she says thanks. Right, Mom? I laughed. Of course. How could I be so stupid? Say, is there any way I can head on to the next world? I want to be there with you forever. Mabel, I love you. That's the truth. I'm such an idiot for not realizing it before, because I've loved you ever since I gave you that purple bracelet. You're the most beautiful girl I've ever known. Why is everybody dying? And Mabel giggled. Oh, thanks, Tony. I can't believe it took all this happening for you to understand, but it's okay. I can be the smarty pants in this relationship. She patted my head. You already know how to join me. You just need to think a little harder. Oh, no. Oh, yes. This pond is a portal, right? That's what we decided when we built our kingdom here last time. It's a portal to a world that only you and I share. We'll have tea parties and talk about all the cool books we read. What is happening? What? That's exactly right. Mabel was ecstatic. I'm so glad you remembered everything. I was worried for the longest time, you know. I thought you might have chosen that other girl, but you were loyal. Oh no, what if we choose Sophia? Oh no. See, that's what I like about you, your loyalty. I know you betrayed me once, but everyone makes mistakes. I know it won't happen again. Well then, shall we? I offered my arm to Mabel. Yes, we shall. She leaned on me and kissed my neck. Mabel and I finally reunited, walked through the portal to begin our new lives together. What just happened? Developers, you guys okay? You good? You got anything you need to work out of your system? Is this what you needed to work out of your system? 'Cause what? Wow. I mean, really? Was that the good ending? It had to have been the good ending, right? But really? I don't know. I really don't know. Like, people drift apart. Like the mom, the crazy dad, they aren't wrong. Like, you make friends when you're in school. You think that that is your entire bubble, right? Like, these are the people I'm gonna know for the rest of my life. And it is not the case, I promise you. There may be some people that you stay friends with, especially now with the internet and all the different ways you can communicate with people. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Because even when I got married, I had some old high school buddies of mine come to the wedding that we hadn't seen each other in years, but it felt like we had known each other for a while. But this is just kinda like, so did she actually commit suicide? Is that basically what we're saying? Is that she took her own life, and then apparently the mother did as well? Because she's in the next world too? Did she like poison her oolong tea or something? I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I really don't. I'm trying to make heads or tails of this, and nothing's connecting. But it's a different take. Like, I was hoping, here's what I was hoping, is I was hoping it was going to be a wholesome game, you know, like he thinks that he's cursed, but she just wanted to tell him thank you for being there, and like, I'm sorry that I had to leave this world, you know, whether it was by choice or not. Like, that's the route I thought it was going to go, and it was like, you know what you can do is you can kill somebody and then jump into this pond, because it'll be a portal to the other world and we'll be together forever. Yeah, we just made our parents super sad too, because dang, I guess we don't have to worry about going to college anymore. All right, we're gonna load this, and I'll go ahead and skip, and we'll go to Shannon and see what happens since we're already here, okay? I took out my phone, dialed Shannon's number, and prayed for her to pick up. I heard a click and a bit of static on the other side. Tony, how are you? Can I come over right now? It's important. Wait, sure, it's a bit late, but my mom will allow it if it's for schoolwork. Thanks, Shannon. See you in a few. Juniper Street, Berry Avenue, Walnut Place. Straight places flew past me as Shannon's face was the only thing on my mind. I knew I needed her to get me out of this predicament. I rang the doorbell. Shannon came out dressed in polka-dotted pajamas or jeans and a green shirt. Wow, that was fast. Do you need some water? You look really tired. That would be nice, I said. We went upstairs to her room as Shannon explained to her parents that we were working on our lab reports for the project. Shannon's room was not the typical girl's room. When I first visited, I expected a tsunami of pink, but it was actually quite sterile. The wallpapers had a pleasant blue hue and a couple of posters adorned the walls. Shannon's bed was also very no business with its white sheets, white pillows, and plain wooden frame. Business? However, it was clear that Shannon spent an extravagant amount of time at her desk, which took up almost a third of the entire room. It supported a large monitor with notebooks and loose papers scattered all over the surface. The chair, too, was black and luxurious, looking more in place in a CEO's office than a high school girl's bedroom. I sat on the carpet. "It's about Mabel." "Oh no," Shannon said. "I'm so sorry you had to deal with this for so long. The people at school are really horrible." "You see, I met her." "You met Mabel?" Shannon looked puzzled. "The ghost of Mabel? Maybe her spirit. That doesn't matter. But she can't move on to the next world unless she has no regrets in this one." "Makes sense." "And she feels most guilty about leaving her mom alone, but her mom won't listen to me. I think she's been broken by Mabel's death. She's completely different from what I remember, and she keeps blaming me for her daughter's suicide." I started crying. Shannon came over and silently hugged me. "It's not your fault, I promise." "But I was the only one who knew about all this. I was the only one." "You're not responsible," she said again. "What if I just went over again and refused to leave? I'd spend the rest of my life caring for Sophia. Then Mabel can move on freely." Shannon's grip tightened. "No, don't do that." "Huh?" I was not expecting an angry outburst from the normally very supportive girl. "You've done so much to get to where you are. Don't you talk about getting out of this town all the time? You still have so many colleges left. Have you ever wondered why I talked to you so much back then? It's not like I followed everyone around like a lost puppy. I admired you, Tony. Admire. Present tense. I used to be such a stupid little girl." "All I did was sleep in class, go home and watch TV, and repeat the cycle all over the next day. But you worked so hard and I was inspired. Then every day became so much more fun. You can't just give up everything for some stupid mirage." "Mabel's not..." "Listen, Tony, I don't like saying this, but I really think you should go talk to Mr. G. He's qualified to deal with grief." "So, Mabel just died being mad at me?" "We don't know if she was mad, but I guess feelings were unresolved," she said. "That's awful." "It is, but it'll be okay. You might have to deal with this for the rest of your life. That's how things go. I still think about my grandfather's death, but time will surely heal all wounds. One day you'll wake up and realize you haven't thought of her in a long time." "I don't want that." "Isn't that why she died in the first place?" "I stopped thinking about her." "You'll think about other girls instead. It's your life, Tony, not hers." "It's just so cruel," I said through the tears. "Yeah, it is," she said. "Sometimes you just don't get an ending." I sat there soaking Mabel's carpet in tears for a solid 30 minutes until Mabel's mother announced that the entire family was going to bed and that I should really head home. What kind of science project are you working on where it's just me crying for 30 minutes? I waved goodbye to my friend and made sure to wipe my eyes so her parents did not see that I had been crying. Despite my occasional failure to work on the science fair project, we still did pretty well. We ended up placing second at district and advancing to the state round. On the car ride home for the competition, my mother announced that Sophia had also died. "Most likely suicide," she said. I stared out the window and thought of the oolong tea. On Shannon's recommendation, I started seeing Mr. G more frequently. He turned out to be more helpful than I expected, and even sent in a good word with those schools I was waitlisted from. I joined his wall of happy clients. One day I looked into the mailbox to find a letter of medium thickness from Johns Hopkins. The S was important, Shannon constantly told me. I opened the letter in front of my parents in the kitchen to cries of jubilation. Biochemistry, I told them. Shannon and I promised to send each other letters from our new residences. After I finished packing for the big move, I did a final sweep of my room and found a purple bracelet. The paper was thin, torn in several places, and faded. I left it in the corner and zipped up my suitcase. Hold on, I'm getting whiplash for how these are ending. Like it's just it? Like everything just went good? Because wasn't she gonna have like little micro curses? What is this game? Okay, I'm guessing the ending is the same, or the credits are the same, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave this episode here. I know it's a little bit longer, but it's been a little bit since I've played a game like this for this long, so it is gonna be just one episode. But thank you guys so much for watching and sitting with me on this one. It was very strange, to say the least. So I'm curious what you guys think. What you guys thought of this story. Is it in the right? Is it kind of skewed negatively towards the person who moves on or moves out, even if it's against their will? What do you guys think? Either way, I'm curious to see. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys on the next time, AMJ. That's why.